Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah wa rabbil alameen. Akibatun lil mustaqim wala urwana ila dalimin. Wassalatu ala rasulina Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Halim wa salam bikum. Barakat Allah alaikum wa ailatukum. Thank you, my dear brothers and sisters. Today, I'm going to talk about a very serious topic that has been in the news, and especially on the African continent, where we have African Channel who hosted a program talking about similar issue to this, and they butchered it. And as usual, they never have any Muslims on the panel. They only have disbelievers, non-Muslims, and so-called experts on the Futafula community when they themselves are not even Fulani. And so I listened to this program and I was so distraught, and had a couple of Americans and Europeans and so forth talking about the issue of the Sahel and talking about the Fulani and talking about the so-called quote unquote terrorism that is happening in the region. And they butchered the program tremendously. And I wrote to them and told them that why didn't you have any scholars of Islam? Why you didn't have any Fulani people, our brothers and sisters there, and so forth? Because it was wrong. And of course, they gave us a bad rap and said things that was not right. Because again, the Fulani population, the Futafula population, only very few of us out of millions of us are joined in groups like this. We're not talking about the criminal bands. I'll talk about that issue as well. But I wanted to touch this issue because I'm Fulani. And I'm your brother. And I'm African, but I'm Muslim, which takes the first priority. But I'm a Fulani. And so therefore, I'm wounded just like any other person. If I look at a program and I see that they're maligning the Futafula community by saying that me and every Futafula brethren are involved in somehow or another with a terrorist group, and that's not right. It's wrong. See, and so that's why I'm taking them to task, and I'm going to talk about it, and so forth and so on. And I invited one gentleman, but after he saw my picture, he saw me with my turban and everything else, he figured I'd probably eat him up, which I would eat him up alive, because what he said, he's an African brother, but what he said was wrong, because he has an innate distrust and hate for Fulani people, which is wrong. So, brothers and sisters, if you saw my marquee today, where I talked about terrorism, this ancestral brother right here, I'm going to talk about this group, inshallah, bi'ithnillah. And this is Yusuf Josephine, one of the greatest generals that we know that we had in Islam. He was the mastermind of the second conquest of Andalus. I talked about him. Those who follow me know I talked about this Fullah, Amazigh brother, who came out basically from Mauritania and also from the Takarur region, which I'll cover that in another segment, inshallah, bi'ithnillah. And our brother here, if you look at him today and you see me and you look at him, if we looked at him in the 10th century and we brought him here to the present, what would they say about him? They would call him a terrorist. See, they would call him a terrorist. And anybody who fought the Western powers at the time, they were not designated as that. But today we look at that, and historically speaking, the Western powers consider all of the Mujahideen groups, all of the Fulani jihad, and all of the beautiful sultanates that we had, they would consider this a avenue of terror. And this is wrong. And we have to talk about this because many of the Fulani people today are very upset, and they're now starting to have a complex. They do not want to see things said about them because it hurts them. I understand that. I don't live in Nigeria. I know a lot of my brothers and relatives living there, and I understand some of the things that was said to me about how they're kind of like walking on eggshells in some ways, especially if they're away from Kaduna and areas like this. Then especially when they're going down south, and they're very afraid. Not afraid, but they are tentative because people will malign them and profile them and say, well, hey, he's Fulani, then he has to be a herdsman, or he's got to be something involved with some type of criminal activity. And this is definitely wrong. So when we look at this, brothers and sisters, we have to look at the Genesis to a degree and say, how do we get to this point now? If you look at the 700s and you look at the groups from 711 to the 1800s, my Fulani brethren and ancestral brothers, mothers, aunties, and so forth were in jihad. So much so that one of the states that was named during the time in the 1500s, I believe it was called a jihad state because the jihad of the Fulani people, in this particular with the Messina, who was my favorite of the sultanates. I love the Messina sultanates, the history and so forth and so on behind it. And they call it the jihad state. And so therefore, when the powers to be, the Western powers, look at all this history, they've seen that there's no other group that managed to develop such a jihad from this long a period of time, from 711 to the 1800s. Not the Hausa, not the Kanuri, not the Kapeli, not the Bendinka, okay, not the Wolof or Jolof, none of them. But the Fulani people have had this type of jihad and so forth. So let's look at that jihad. Was this jihad involving in going to McDonald's and bombing the place? No. Was it going to any places to bomb, to kill? No. Were involved in kidnapping innocent individuals and beheading them? No. Did they go and do certain things to people to hack them to death? No. Their jihad was according to Islamic tenets. They fought to preserve the religion and, of course, to protect themselves and to protect the religion and to protect their way of life. And then they went to fight when other Muslim brothers were wronged, like in Andalus. Andalus were not Fulani people. They were Caucasian or Tubab people in Spain, and Jews, and so forth and so on. And we went up there, and Black people went there and fought in their behalf. This is 711. Remember Tariq ibn Ziyad. Remember, I talked about him before, which was the first of the generals who took the Muslims into what we call modern day Spain and Portugal today. He went in there, and 99.9% of his troops were Black people. We have confirmation of that because Alfonso VI, I think it was, who said that he made a funny remark by saying, when they asked him about the Mujahideen who came from Al-Maghrib. And you remember, Tariq ibn Ziyad, rahimahullah, went to the where? Takrur region to get the Mujahideen to go fight into Andalus, modern day Spain. So those people have been Black from time immemorial. They were not Caucasians or whites or Tubac. They were not. And so they went in and fought in behalf of Tubac. That's right. Tubac people who were maligned and who were persecuted and so forth and so on The injustices that was going on in Spain at that time were so great that finally the emir said, hey, it's time enough. We got a letter. We got confirmation of something. We want to take these people out. And they did. This is the difference between that time and the time today. Today, we have miscreants, it's true, but we have to understand why. Why is it a common Fulani brother, ordinary brother, suddenly takes up arms? We have to ask that question. Why suddenly they are taking up arms to go fight? Because their livelihood was taken from them. And or their families were killed and their clans were killed. See, and they took up arms. This is one of the things we talk about, brothers and sisters, that makes it very difficult to analyze this. Because terrorism, as we understand it, each person you talk to gives you a different definition. And the classical one is that the Western powers say terrorism is one thing and designate me or any other person going from Salat al-Fajr to Salat al-Asr as a terrorist, and so forth and so on. We don't consider a man going, a Muslim, a rightful Muslim doesn't consider his brother, regardless if he's Fulani or Hausa or Kanuri or he's Igbo or Yoruba or Mende or Mendinka. It makes no difference. If he goes to Masjid, he's not considered a terrorist. See, so this is the dilemma that we have. And the Western powers have complicated the matters because when they came, they've been here since the 1400s, brothers and sisters. They've been in Africa in mischief since the 1400s. And so each time they have caused some problems or another. This is not new. When I covered Egypt, which I'll go back to cover Egypt, which we know is Kemt, I will talk about the period of time and what happened and how, again, the Tubab Western powers came in and caused a lot of havoc and destroyed Kemt. Destroyed it. And so the Western powers and Tubab forces have literally destroyed the continent to the point we have never recovered from it. And we're still being dissected by the Western powers today. From 7/11 to the present, the Futafula have been on the radar of the Tubab, Urals, and in present times, the Americans. When you talk about the Sahel, you talk about the problems. Yeah, they talk about the Tuareg. Yes, they talk about the Arabs, but and they talk about the Hausa. What they know in back of their mind is they're afraid of a jihad, not from the Tuareg, not basically from the Hausa. They're afraid of the jihad emanating from the Futafula because it's them who have the power and the manpower to upset the balance through the Sahel. I talked about this. And we have proof of that because we know that what was said before, and this is, again, I know in Arabic language, but we're Muslims. Majority of us are Muslims. So we should have some working knowledge of Arabic because Arabic is required for us to understand our religion very well. We must understand Arabic. But here's a map here, again, of the jihad of the Futafula. And you see it stretches all the way across. And we have people all the way down even to Mozambique. And when the jihad is called, one of the things even the Nigerian politicians talked about how they were amazed in a sense of fear, how the Futafula can get on the phone and call his brother who's sitting in Sudan, or call his brother who's sitting in the Cameroons, or call his brother who's sitting in Mozambique, or a brother sitting in Senegal, and call them, and they will come to aid their Fulani brothers. This reciprocity you heard me talk about before. So this jihad here is strong. And so therefore, the Western powers have put us on the radar. And they watch us. and they malign us and they kill us outright. The Russians came in with the Wagner group, and what happened? Now you heard reports. Maybe many of you haven't because they kept it under quiet. But here in Africa, we got the reports of that the Wagner people have been slain a lot. Okay, they have been killed a lot in clashes with the Messina, with the Tuareg groups, Ansar Deen, and also with the renegade groups like IS and AQ, which I'll talk about that in a bit too. And most of you who follow me know my feelings about them, and I'll say it straight out again. So those who do not understand what I say, they have no damn business being here in the Sahel or Africa, period. Their jihad is in Jazira Arab. They came here to Africa to carve out the Sahel and some African states, but we ain't having it. You understand? We ain't having it. And the Fulani people, less than 0.001%, belong to the AQ and to IS because we know them to be deviant. Okay, so let's get that straight right now. They are over here. Now, the Western powers want to designate them as terrorists, because they're wayward. I'm not saying they're not Muslims. They are brothers. I'm not going to get into that. This is another issue. That's another issue when we talk about takfir and so forth. I'm not going to get into that. We have scholars on the ground who still tackle this issue today, but they are deviant, and so we should stay away from them. So I want to get that out, straight out. We have no affiliations with them. We have nothing to do with them. Their jihad is different than the jihad that we face here in the Sahel. Our brothers, the Fulani brothers and sisters, and our families are in a jihad that's different, not like the AQ and IS. That's not the same. We have grazing and we have water rights that we're still fighting for. And we've been killed outright. So we have no affiliation, and we have nothing in common with the AQ and IS. We just don't. Because our fight is dealing with our families and protecting our families in the Sahel. This is our fight. Not just going and putting on bombs on airplanes, putting bombs at a coffee shop, putting bombs, killing other Muslims, so forth and so on. That's not our fight. Even though we do have some renegades among us, which we know them as bandits and so forth and so on. But I want to make sure we understand that clearly about the Futafula, about the jihad has nothing to do with the AQ and the IS, Islamic State and Al-Qaeda. We have nothing in common with them at all, period. And it's an insult to every Fulani who's labeled, as you see on the Western press. They see me, they look at our scholarly body, we look at our Fulani brothers and sisters, and they always associate me, you, all of us who are Fulani with some of the IS and the AQ. And then when we do have groups and militias, suddenly they say, AQ-backed Fulani militias, IS-backed herdsmen, which is absolute crap, okay? Bottom line, it's a lie because they want to keep us maligned so they can kill us straight out. That's the bottom line. And that's why I'm talking again today about this issue, because it's a serious issue, brothers and sisters, very serious issue. And it should be talked about. That show I saw last night is what the problem is now. The person who's sitting in the West say, okay, I heard about the Fulani people. Oh, I didn't know that all of them belong to the AQ. I didn't know all of them belong to IS. I didn't know all of them had guns and they're killing. See, and that's why I'm taking people to task for that. In modern times, the term terrorism has caused so much confusion and are so varied. However, the term has been designated. Now, when they talk about somebody who's a Tubab and they call them terrorists, it doesn't stick on them. People brush that off. When they see you or me or a Tuareg brother or a light brown-skinned Arab or a Pakistani brother or Indian brother or anybody who's melanated to a degree, what happened? That terrorism sticks on us like white on rice. And again, when you see in the Sahel, in the Savannah region, and our family and our towns have been wiped out, And when those brothers go to take arms and take machetes and anything they can find, clubs, and go to find people, and then they find them and they go and deal with them, see? So we don't consider that terrorism. And this is why I'm saying how this thing has to be defined and defined correctly. And it's not. The Fulani family has been the victim of the game of terror. You heard me say this. Now, this publicity and this out and out lie has been so great perpetrated on us, all of us are designated somehow or another as being a terrorist. If you guys all remember, I think I got the picture here. If you guys remember all this here. Oh, I don't believe this. I don't believe this. This enemy took all my pictures out of here, brothers and sisters. Except only they left me 5. Well, I had a picture of Sheikh Gumi there in Nigeria when he met with some of the Mujahideen groups and bandit groups and so forth and so on. After he did that, he had gotten some of the groups to stop. We had many of the other ethnic groups who were involved in trying to stop what's going on, went after him and said he was a terrorist. Now, he didn't advocate using violence. He didn't pick up a gun or AK-47. He did not say, I'm going to go do this. But yet, this is why this term terror has to be defined correctly. Here is a man of peace who's a scholar in Islam. He's trying to help his country. He's trying to stop his Fulani brethren from killing and robbing and kidnapping. He's also trying to make peace so that we'll have coexist, so we can come to the table. How can that be terrorism? But the other ethnic groups like the Igbo and Yoruba who kill us, they don't call it terrorism. But when we kill them, it's called terrorism. This is the sad fact, especially that's going on in Nigeria. We know that. So when he and his family are killed by non-Fulani folk, the terror designation accusations aren't used. And again, when we kill our Fulani brethren and our families, then when we go to take clubs to go find the people and execute them or beat them or what the situation, this is terrorism. And this is why I said, brothers and sisters, this has to be redefined again, and we have to look at it and find out, because again, in those communities, they call it freedom fighter, but the West calls this terrorism. So we have to redefine this. And again, those who perpetrate crimes on us are not called terrorists. When the West drops bombs and kill innocent Fulani people in the Sahel under the terrorism banner, that's not terrorism. When the Ghanaian in the North Ghanaian government and its security forces go after the Fulani people and went outright and killed them, it's not called terrorism. But when the Fulani people begin to retaliate and they killed some of the policemen who killed their families, when they came back, they had gunfights and gun battles, and some I heard was hand to hand with machetes and so forth. And they took care of business. That's called terrorism, because the Fulani retaliated. So anything that we do in retaliation is called terrorism, and it's wrong. When the Fulani family retaliates, join the group out of sheer fear or protection, terror designation is hoisted upon them. This is, brothers and sisters, you heard me say this before. If I was living in the United States and say we had groups of people come to Compton, California, where I was raised, and they take out the people, and then I go join a band, a group to go to protect ourselves, I don't know how you can call that terror. See, because when our families were killed, that's terror. How would you like it when you sit there and you watch your wife, your mother, maybe your grandmother and your daughters ravished and murdered? You don't call that terror? But then when I go, the bastards leave out of my house, I go pick up a gun and I confront them. They're getting in their car, and I go and I shoot some of them after what they've done. Then I'm considered a criminal and a terrorist. It's not right. It's not fair, brothers and sisters. It's not fair. The Futafula today are made of city folk, farmers, and herders. Fractions of them belong to the murderous groups and criminal gangs, and yet, especially in Nigeria, non-Fulani media insinuates that a Fulani person is associated with terror. I look at many of these programs, especially this one program, I see it every week. I can't think their brother's name, very educated, but he can't stand us. If he can kill every Fulani, he would. He considers a Fulani person a person who has some gene that makes him a bandit or a kidnapper. And it's wrong for him to talk that way. He's a highly educated man. But I wonder many times if he had family or something in northern Nigeria that were maybe murdered or hurt or something. I don't know. But he is not allowed to seek reparations, revenge, or even court to right a wrong done to him. Brothers and sisters, this is the issue right here. If the Tubab is sitting in Nigeria, he is wronged. Rightfully so, he should be able to go to the police. He should seek reparations. He can have revenge because police will come and get these people and put them in justice, and the court will avenge for him. But the Futafula don't have this. Now you understand why our brethren have tried the system and it doesn't work. This is the catalyst why we have insurgencies across the Sahel, because of these type of injustices and so forth. Others have the right to seek reparations, even against us. When the herders go to attack farmers and destroy their livelihood and their farms and their farmland, they seek court and things are done. But the Fulani, when our cattle are stolen, when our cattle are are slaughtered, when our people are slaughtered in the savannah, what repercussions? What reparations do they can get? Now, some of the Nigerian government officials did some reparations when Fulani people were wronged and their cattle was stolen or they were killed or so forth and so on. But that's a very small segment. See, this is again why we're talking about this, because I have to present the Futafula side of this, because I'm Futafula, I'm from that community. So I have to present our case to make it right, to balance it out from what the media is saying about us. The Western powers and their war on terror has been a failure. That's the only thing they got right at this panel last night, that the Western powers and their billions they've spent on a war on terror has done nothing but to inflate more groups. When this 9/11 happened, after that, it was only a few groups here and there, but they were nothing. Okay, they were just groups, but they were nothing. But when the Western powers began to kill Muslims, ruthlessly, suddenly these groups, this percentage has went up 500%. With all of its technology, bombs, satellites, they have not managed to stop this. Now this type of banditry, kidnapping, wanton murder, militias, mujahideen groups have skyrocketed to where we cannot take it out, because the Western powers are responsible for this, because they funded this type of nonsense with the governments that told them to go after the Fulani, go after the ulama and the fuqaha in Nigeria and Niger and in the Gambia and all these places. Go after them and go after their families, and then go after ordinary Muslims. And this caused this upsurge to where there's so many groups now, they can't take everybody out. Especially when they go hide in the Sahara, they just cannot find everybody. See? And this is a serious problem. And, we look at northern Nigeria. We look at Boko Haram, which have who have now broken apart, and they got, you know, separate groups and so forth and so on. They made some fatal errors and so forth and so on that caused you know, everybody to be angry with them, and we should be angry with them, because kidnapping and murdering is not Islamic. Period. It's not Islamic. And our brothers who are copying them, among the Fulani youth who are bandits and kidnappers, this is not Islamic. And you know that, because we had enough of our ulama there in Nigeria to talk to you, to tell you to stop your ways. Yes, we understand what has happened to you. They destroyed your livelihood. We know that. But that doesn't give you the right to go kidnap house of people, or some Tiv or some Igbo people, and kidnap your families. When you don't get what you want, you kill them. And now many of them even killing even Fulani dignitaries now, from Mayate Allah and so forth. You know about that news. I won't go in there because we're in Africa. We know about what's going on. We have a lot of our officials being killed by our own brethren. This is not right. This is not right. If you're a Muslim, you cannot do this. You cannot kill innocent people, period, regardless if he's Fulani or Tiv or whatever. You cannot do this. Causing them to take up arms in defense. And again, brothers and sisters, this is a fact. At one time in 2015, I believe, the Fulani herdsmen were known as the fourth deadliest group in the world. And at that time, the designation was wrong, because because of what they had done. They had killed Christians, they had killed a lot of other ethnic groups and so forth. But this type of fighting had a lot to do with land rights and water rights and our grazing rights. And when people came to kill our cattle, or they take our cattle and sell it on the market, and we have no repercussions, so the herdsmen begin to get together, and the groups, and then they became very ultra violent themselves in retaliation. But finally, 4 years later, whoever making these designations, finally removed them off there, realized that they're not quote unquote terror groups, because they didn't get you know, the terror that we understand. They didn't go into Lagos to coffee shops and bomb it, or they didn't go into the malls of Abuja and bomb it. They didn't do anything like that. They stayed in the Sahel, and they fought the people who fought them, who steal from them, and the policemen who wronged them, and so forth and so on. That's what their fight was. Their fight wasn't to go to McDonald's and put a bomb and so forth. Our Fulani brothers didn't do that. They didn't go bomb up. Yes, they went to houses, and sometimes they even maybe got the wrong people and they killed them. Yes, because of the retaliation on what has happened to them. See, so that's why we have to have a clear designation, and we don't have that. And this is a problem. Western powers have funded ethnic groups as militants, as militias and militants, to fight against the Mujahideen. That program, brothers and sisters, is everywhere. I'll give you an example of that. You heard me talk about this before. When you go and you know you want to practice your faith, it is commanded upon you to go to the masjid and pray. They interdict that to stop you from going to masjid, and many, like in Egypt in later years, and I still heard it's still going on now. They were killing a lot of prominent Muslims going to the masjid, coming back out of the masjid. This is a Western power program, especially Americans. The Fulani and you know, they have suffered under this as well, and all of us have suffered under this as well. And there's no repercussions. There's no leeway, reparations for me or anyone else. If we are harmed inside the masjid, there's none. And all of this is because of what is happening in the in Africa today. As long as Western powers are controlling things, they're going to do this. But as you heard me say, brothers and sisters, many times, there will be a man who will come forth and his jihad, and what's going to transpire will be that nobody will be able to stop it. And it won't be this kidnapping, this AQ and IS business. It won't be anything like this. This will be fighting against the Western powers who are seated inside Africa. He'll be able to throw them out and give freedom where we have all our resources. This type of thing is starting to happen already. We have certain, like, what's happened in Nigeria, in Niger, and in Burkina Faso, so forth and so on, Mali. I've got which IMF, I read an article, was Mali, which one was Burkina Faso? One of them now have become debt-free. That's very interesting, isn't it? They become debt-free. All the African states should look at that model and get freedom from this IMF and from the Americans and from their loans and from the Chinese and all that. But they're debt-free. We have to take our hat off to them. The Western powers funding and putting into power inept leadership. You have the Futafula community. One of our own takes leadership. He forgets about us. And his ineptitudes, his financial programs, his infrastructure programs, and so forth, justice programs are under par. And he allows for security forces, militia, rogue militias to go after the Futafula communities all across the Sahel. And we've seen this many times. We have Fulani leadership that should look back to the past, but they don't. And they're not ruling justly. And because we're not using the Sharia or law, we can never prosper. I don't care if what you try to do. You can change the currency. It's not going to work. You can have your own currency. It's not going to work. As long as you have upside down agreements with the West and you don't use the Sharia law as governance, you're going to have this problem. We're going to continue to have this problem. But this man who will come will have Sharia law. And Subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless him. And those who will come after him will come from Jazira Arab, the Mahdi. When he comes, then it's lights out for the Christians and so forth and so on. It'll be over. And America, as we understand today, will be there, but he won't have the power anymore. It'll be under the Islamic banner. It'll be no more killing. There'll be no more intelligence agencies causing havoc. The Tubab agents can't come into the country and start going after black people and other people and start to fight them and so forth and so on. See? Or stop them from having citizenship. All that's going to come to an end. It'll be finished. It'll be finished. And as you heard me say before, brothers and sisters, one of the most hideous things you could say is when a person comes to you and tell you, now you see me. Now, if someone looks at me, do I look like I'm from Japan or China? Huh? You do. Do I look Irish or French or Scandinavian? No. Then how is it that these guys who I lived in America come here to tell me I have no right to be here in Morocco or Ghana or any other place? This is my homeland. How they come and tell me that? And they tell me I have no right to even go to the masjid. And some of them made a racial thing where they had their flunkies come to me and tell me, ask me questions. Hey, are you a white Arab? If you're not a white Arab, you can't go pray. This is coming from them. And our brothers who do this, and many times I talk to them, I said, do you know what they call you? And I can't repeat the words. You know what they call them there in the United States. I said, the same ones who you go and say you defending them, and you here to come after me. And when you go to the United States, you go to his house, he will never invite you to dinner. He will never invite you to lunch. He will never let you marry his daughter. This is the stuff where I'm talking about terrorism and what has happened. It's gotten out of hand now. Since terrorists among the Muslim population worldwide is less than 0.01. They had to mutate this to start to go after people like me. And then he said, okay, he goes to Fedger, he goes to Asr, then we got to stop that. We'll hire the local criminal populations to go after him inside the masjid and outside the masjid. And this is wrong. And this is part of the terror designation that I'm talking about that's wrong. And all of us are suffering from it. The Fulani scholarship and the ulama have been silenced into submission. I'll talk about our leadership in another segment. And they cannot talk. And some who do talk are maligned. And there are death threats against them. And when they're trying to bring peace, all of us wants peace. We believe that peace and the security is achieved when we follow Sharia law. We don't believe that you can have peace and security, follow Democrat ways and means, or following the Americans, or following the Europeans, or following any group, but to follow Subhanahu wa ta'ala, his laws, and follow the laws of the Nabi, alayhi sallam. We believe that. We believe that the peace and security and well-being of our country, like Morocco or Tunisia or Ghana or Nigeria, we believe that this ultimate sakina, this peaceful tranquility in Arabic language, comes from our adherence to Subhanahu wa ta'ala and his laws and the laws of our Prophet alayhi sallam. We don't believe we can get it from the West. And you see today, what do we have? We have financial turmoil, and I don't care who comes to power, they adopt the same financial means, and it never works. You see now, the rent is up everywhere in the world. Most people can't afford to buy any homes anywhere anymore because they use the system of riba and inflation and so forth, and the injustice behind it. And because Subhanahu wa ta'ala's hand is not in it, now it's gotten out of hand. The prices of food is rising everywhere in the world. Because we have not followed the Sharia law. We believe that when we follow this, the justice will come to the ordinary man, to the richest to the poorest. And the tranquility, because Subhanahu wa ta'ala will help us to develop this tranquility in our land. But he is not helping us now. Why? Because we're doing other things. And this is the problem, brothers and sisters. This is the problem. So in a nutshell, the Western powers and their terror programs has been a failure. Now, the Fulani person, we understand today, 99.9% of you they would tell you they don't believe in killing anybody. Because we have another set of codes and conduct also. We have the Quran and the Sunnah. But we also have another set of codes, Pulaco. We have that we have to adhere to as well, which is very stringent and is stringent. But of course, we follow the laws that Subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us. But we have also set of laws and how we're supposed to act towards one another and to others. We have that. So we believe that peace is what we want. We do not believe that anybody among the Futafula community in particular should go into Europe, into a McDonald's in Paris, France, and bomb it. We don't believe that. It's wrong. It's criminal. And it's not sanctioned under Pulaco or sanctioned under the Quranic law or the Sharia of our Prophet Islam. He never told us to do that. Nor 99.9% of the Futafula community does not believe that we should go kidnap somebody and hold him for ransom to get money. We don't believe that either. We don't believe that we should go after the government and start to kill dignitaries and so forth. We don't believe that as well, or overthrow them. We don't believe that. We don't think it's viable. It's not viable because we have rules as Muslims. And again, under Pulaco, we have rules about that. So since we believe this way, how could we as Futafula be designated as terrorists? If we are against kidnapping, we are against the killing innocent people. We're against bombing. And again, brothers and sisters, when you hear about the vigilante groups and so forth and so on, look at the percentage of, let's just look at Nigeria in particular. Look at the percentage of the Futafula community. Okay, they're in the millions. 0.01 of us are involved in these criminal and malign groups. But if you look at it right, it looks like it's thousands upon thousands and thousands of us involved. Again, the handful have spoken up, and our advocacy groups like Mati Allah and so forth have been weakened and fractionalized. These are some of the issues, brothers and sisters, too, that makes it very difficult because our advocacy groups, they're not together and they have their spats and so forth and so on. We have to get that together. That's another segment I'll talk about, inshallah, ta'ala, and I'll get into this about the Fulani leadership, what we should be doing, because from 711 to 1800s we were involved in leadership here and even parts of North Africa, because the 5 sultanates of Morocco had Fulani leadership in it. They were mixed with the Amazigh people, like me. I'm mixed. I mixed, with the Amazigh people and the Fulani people, but I also have, on my dad's side, I got Igbo and Yoruba and the people from Sudan and so forth and so on. I have that on my dad's side. My mom's side, of course, Fulani, Amazigh, and so forth and so on. So, we're in a serious state now that we have to talk about this, and we should continue to talk until we get something motivated. But until our governments are free and they free us from the Western powers, we're going to keep revisiting these issues. And I say again, brothers and sisters, if I'm a man of peace, meaning I don't believe in going to kill innocent people just to kill them. I don't believe robbing and stealing. I don't believe in fornication or going out to do this. I don't believe that I should get a bomb and sneak into Europe and kill innocent Tubab or innocent disbelievers. I don't believe in that. But yet I'm designated as a terrorist. See, I'm designated as a terrorist. And that's why this issue is bad. We have issues like this here where we have our brothers who've taken up arms because of what has happened to them. And again, we have to understand what makes the ordinary Fulani person begin to go get clubs and the AK-47 to defend themselves. Why aren't they're not being protected? This is the question, brothers and sisters, huh? And when it's gotten so bad to where our families and are killed and murdered and slaughtered, and we have no rights, then our brothers like this begin to take up arms and join groups to fight. See, so you have our Fulani herdsmen who have had their cattle taken from them or slaughtered, or their grazing rights maligned. Police come after them heavy-handedly and go after them, and rogue militia group like I forgot that group there, ESN, I'm trying to remember, they're Nigeria, who their own focus is to go after Fulani people and herdsmen. That's all. If I don't care if they do anything or not, they're herding cattle, whatever, they're after them. And as long as you Fulani, they're after you. So we graduate from herdsmen now to fighting, getting clubs and so forth, and into militias to fight to defend our communities. When that didn't work, then they start to go into arenas like this where they start to take up the AK-47 and they start to do things. These are Fulani brethren. And this is why this is a difficult situation, brothers and sisters, and there's not one answer to it. There's many. See here, we got how you doing, my dear sister? Thank you for showing up. This is my sister inside the United States, and so I'm presenting her, and she's Fulani, and so forth and so on. And you probably see that. I wish, my mother. I had my program here last year, I think it was, when I showed my mother how she looked and so forth and so on. And and you heard me say before, it's funny how I used to look at on my mom's side of the family. We have some. I mean, in my estimation, they looked kind of peculiar because I saw them and they looked different. I'm not because their skin was lighter, but they have features about them. Now I understand why that is, because we're Fulani. We're Fulani. So we have these features. And I was understanding their hair is long and so, and I'm trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? And so, and my sister, when she was young, she had long hair, right? So all of this type of thing like this. And my cousin Stephanie, who lived around the corner from me in Compton, I didn't know she was my cousin at that time, but I've always had some I don't know what it was, some connection with her. And then when we sent our DNA into Jet Match, we found out we're relatives. So I've been knowing her, and she lived around the corner from me in Compton since we were 5 years old. But if you look at her, it's the same formula: lighter skin, long, silky hair, right? So the Fulani people, we have our distinct features and so forth and so on. It's very interesting. Thank you, my dear sister, for showing up. I really appreciate that. How you doing, my dear brother? How you doing? Thank you for showing up, my dear cousin, today. And I'm hoping that you follow me some more. And this is another cousin of mine, brothers and sisters. And I'm happy and proud to have this brother here. I learned is now my cousin. We found out from DNA, and his DNA has worked out miracles. This is something that is very close to me, because when you get older, the family ties mean much more than when you're younger, perhaps because you think about different things. But when you get older, the family ties are far more greater to you. You hold them more to your heart, and it has a more profound feeling, because now you have family and so forth and so on. And I'm hoping in my time that there'll be a time where I can get everybody together to come to visit. And we have, and I many times I often dream about in the Gambia, because in the Gambia I have relatives there as well. I have Mandinka, this on my mom's side again, the Mandinka and Fulani family in the Gambia. And I always talk about that. And I talk with my cousins in the Gambia. We talk about how we can try to get together. And I want that so much to see that happen. Thank you, my dear brother and cousin. Thank you for showing up today. And brothers and sisters, when I look at the Sahel region, and you look at the Sahel region there in orange, that whole region is filled with Fulani people. The Futafula community is there. And we have dialects in all of these regions. I don't know if this is, yeah, here, no, this is I had the Fulani map here. Okay, let me see if I can, here we go. Yeah, I'll try to get this in there real quick, brothers and sisters, because it's important here. I got it transposed on this map here for all the Fulani dialects that are spoken. You see it runs from the west to the east. And so when you talk about the health of the Sahel and of Africa in particular, the Fulani question has to be answered. And the rights have to be given to our people who are still primarily herders. We have city dwellers we call Futafula. We have that. But they have to acknowledge that we have a long history that's stretching out from ancient Egypt and stretching across to West Africa. And when we are harmed and slighted, we have always fought. That's the situation that many has to understand, that the Futafula community, when backed up against corner, will fight. That's not terrorism. Now, when we talk about other things, as you heard me say before, when you joined the AQ and the IS, now you're into that realm of a situation, brothers and sisters, where you are involved, you're a mixture of extremism, because you take the Quran and the Sunnah and you add more to it, which you're not supposed to, and then you're close to, in the center, criminality, and then over to quote unquote terrorism. Because when you go to set a bomb somewhere and you kill innocent people, that's not right. So that's why we only have very, very few of us have joined these type of groups. We have bandits. We talked about that before, but again, those groups have to be rectified. And we have scholars on the ground like Sheikh Gumi there in northern Nigeria, Kaduna, who's trying to do his best to bring those people out from this criminal activity. It's not easy. It's not easy to get them to the table and so forth, because now many of them have kind of even abandoned the religion as well. And they're now almost like zindiq, we call that in Arabic, which it means you to believe in nothing. And we have that, especially we have youth today that are almost like, they say they're Muslims, but in fact, they're not practicing Muslims. See, and this is a serious problem. So brothers and sisters, in a nutshell, we talk about this issue, and we have to again say that the Western powers and their security apparatuses and their billions of dollars have done nothing to help us here in Africa. It's caused more fire, more fuel to the fire, and it's caused an insurgency that's now hitting about 25 African states. Because the war on terror is not just, and therefore we have this happen. They underestimated the zeal of African people. They thought that if they go and do certain things, then everything will fall in line. It doesn't work like that, because Africa is a big continent. And then when you go after the Futafula community, which even makes the matters worse, they're spread across, as you saw that map. It's a lot of us. And then he underestimated the reciprocity between the Futafula community. Sheikh Kofa, who's part of the Messina group, was talking about this when he was interviewed here about 5 years ago, I think it was. I don't know, BBC interviewed him, and they were asking him how he was getting his fighters. He said that he had people get on the phones and he started to call people. So he said people came from far and wide, all the way from the east. Okay, I'm talking about over into the eastern corridor region of Sudan and the Eritrea. They begin to come from there, from the Cameroons. They came from the west, of course, from Senegal, because they was there in Mali, and they came to join in the jihad. The Nigerian officials talked about foreign fighters in northern Nigeria coming from other countries. The Fulani people came to join their brothers to back their play against government forces and so forth and so on, and militias. So we have a serious problem situation, a serious problem and situation that's it's very fluid, and there's no remedies to it because the governments have suppressed the ulama and fuqaha. They have no right to do anything to help them to bring these people to the table. They figured that by using a sword, this is going to solve it. It's not going to solve it because you might kill some here, but more come to take a spot. And now there's so many groups. There's some groups 50, some have 100, some have 500, some have 3, some have 30. I mean, there is so many groups now. That's just in the Sahel. And that's not including North Africa. So brothers and sisters, so we look at this in a nutshell. The Futafula community is in deep in this. And we have to talk about this. And we have to also talk that the Futafula community, those who have a voice, you should come to defend yourself. Defend yourself meaning, I'm not talking about you go get a gun, an AK-47 and join a group. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you should go to talk about these injustices that has happened. That you're not a quote unquote terrorist. And this has to be done, brothers and sisters. It has to be done because this is only right. And you have a right to defend yourself and to defend your name and your homeland. You have that right. And the Futafula community, we have a long history. And it didn't just stretch from the 700s, it goes all the way back into Egypt. You heard my talks talking about ancient Egypt, which you call Kemt, the Fulani people instrument in there. I even gave some things on Facebook. I think I even showed it here on YouTube. I gave the names of some of the kings that were there in ancient Egypt and Kemt, and I married them up with the names that we still carry today. That's interesting, isn't it? Like Kara, we call Korah, or you call Korah today, but it's Kara also. That we have many kings who took the suffix name of Kara, which I went into that. I won't get into that now because it's complex with this linguistics about Kara and Ka and Ba and so forth. I covered that in another segment a couple of months back. But we have a long history, and we should not let that be flushed down the toilet just because some people want to designate us as terrorists because there's money to be had in this. The governments know, and I will close, the governments know that when they call out and say terrorism, the Fulani people, the Tuareg and the Arabs are doing this, the money flows in and the pockets get laden full of gold for our corrupted officials. When they say that we have extremist groups running through the land, the West begin to pump in the money. And then extremist groups and extremist people that they're talking about are people like me whose 99.9% of his existence is from his house to the masjid, from the masjid to the house, maybe from the house to the souk, to the store to buy food, because it's a man's responsibility to buy food and so forth from the the stores and from the now I forgot my English word for the souk. I forgot what it's, train of thought. But anyway, that's our livelihood. Farming, taking care of families, reading, and trying to adhere. This is not terrorism, brothers and sisters. This is not terrorism. And when a man gets up early in the morning and he wants to go to federal prayer because he was ordered to do this by our prophet. This is not terrorism. It's not terrorism. When he's ordered to read the book and to fellowship with other Muslims, to read the Quran, this is not terrorism. It's not terrorism. We have inalienable rights as basically as human beings to practice our faith. That's not terrorism. See, it's not terrorism. So today, brothers and sisters, I talk long again as usual about this problem, the Fulani, terrorism, and Western powers, and how the Fulani people, the Futafula people, are intermixed with the terrorism and so forth. Those of us who are 0.1% who are involved in miscreant activities are killing us in that it makes all of the Fulani people as though they are part of these miscreant groups, when in fact we are not. And this is why we have people like Sheikh Gumi there in Kaduna and northern Nigeria. They're involved, and others. I think Sheikh Bala and some others are there trying to get a solution to this problem. Boko Haram is a whole different ball game. They are who I was talking about before, Boko Haram, and then they have the splinter groups, which is even more deadlier. They are involved in a mixture of extremism and terrorism and criminality. See, and so I don't know, and kidnapping and so forth and so on. These, if you would say, is terrorism. But yet and still, the Western powers who laid bombs and killed a whole lot of people in many different parts of the world, that's not called terrorism, and this is wrong as well. How can those who set a bomb in a place, it's called terror, Fulani or Kanuri or somebody else did this, but when it comes from an airplane, from a government, a Tuba government who drops a bomb and kills innocent individuals, why this is not called terrorism when both have done it? The black man over here has done the same thing, is that he just don't have airplanes. He uses a bicycle or he uses a car to plant the bomb. The Western powers use their aircraft to drop bombs down on cities, and they kill a whole bunch of people, like what's happening in Gaza. And they kill innocent people. See, and this is a problem. This is a problem. So, my brothers and sisters, I will close today, and like I say, this is a serious talk. And as usual, if you like these type of talks, I'll give it to you straight, brothers and sisters. And I'm going to give it to you as I see it, and try to give you as much proof as I can and whatnot, because this is what should be done in a person with my stature. And so for some, I should talk, and I should lay out some facts and so forth, and then let you decide and whatnot. Because if I have a platform, I like to talk about these issues, because they're serious issues, brothers and sisters, very, very serious, and so forth and so on. And to the point to where if I want to go to the masjid, it's a difficult situation to go to the masjid because of the terror designation. And it's not right. It's not right. And I go to the masjid or something, then I have to have people follow me, or I have people come after me in a car, or I go inside the masjid. I got people who are doing this, hitting me inside the masjid because they're trying to drive me out. Yet these people who doing this are not called terrorists. And here I am, 70 years old. I'm walking to the masjid and have things like this happen. I see the cars. The man wait for me. He see me come out here. Either he's going to do one or two things. One, he waits for me to cross. He uses his car to come after me. Or he won't do that. He'll wait until see me walking closer to the masjid. Then he gets out. He comes near me. And he's hoping, because I'm at my age, he figure I'm scared, which I'm not. But he wants to scare me into thinking that he's going to do something to me. He's going to hit me or rob me. Now, these people say they're Muslims. This is what they're doing. I'm going to go to the masjid. So this is what I'm talking about. This is why this terror designation has to be redefined. A 70-year-old man, an intellectual, Islamic intellectual, goes to the masjid walking. He's 70 years old. That's called terrorism. But the man who comes after me in a car, or a man who comes to hit me inside the masjid, or a man who comes to threaten me about going to the masjid is not called a terrorist. Try to figure that one out. Try to figure that out. Well, my brothers and sisters, I will conclude that today, and those who showed up, my sister and my cousin here, Joseph. I really appreciate that very much. And those who show up in the future, my brothers and sisters, please be careful wherever you may be, because today we are living in turbulent times where murder is wanton. It's everywhere. Please be mindful, especially in the United States and so forth. Let me say this and I will close. Don't get me wrong, brothers and sisters. Here in Morocco, I can still walk at nighttime. I'm not going to be facing raving bandits with guns and gangsters and so forth and so on. I won't have that problem. We don't have that problem here in Morocco. I can go back for. I'm talking about a situation where I'm dealing with the U.S. Embassy and their agents and what they do. And they hire the people who are maligned here because no one likes criminals. So they hire them to make trouble for me. See, so but Morocco in itself is not this way. That's why women, you can see them walking, nobody's bothering them. We have very, very little crime here, brothers and sisters. We have tranquility. And if you guys had what we have sitting in Los Angeles, you had this, you wouldn't want to go back and live in Los Angeles anymore. When you know, even as a woman, you can go to and from, or a man, you can go to and from without having to look over your shoulder, waiting for a roving cop to come to get you, or waiting for somebody to come and do a drive-by. We don't have that here. We just don't have that here. And how many places where you go in Los Angeles, California, or Dallas, Texas, where people give you salam? We have that here. We have that where people walk, they don't even know you, but they give you salam. See, and they care about your well-being. If something happened to you and you need something, someone will give you something here. Over there, people don't want to give anything anymore because what has happened. We understand what's going on in the United States, but we don't have that problem here in Morocco. And most of West Africa, period. And most of Africa, I would probably say, is like that. See? So this is a beautiful thing. When you come here and you have the tranquility, when you come here where you know you can go out and you don't have to worry about the roving gangs and so forth and so on. That's a beautiful thing that we have here in Morocco. The tranquility, we have that. And when you know you can walk down the street and people give you their salam, it makes a big, big difference in their life, especially when you get older, to see that. See, that's a healthy population. You can walk the streets of LA, ain't nobody gonna say anything to you. They just walk past you, everybody walk past you, everybody's doing the thing. Here, you see people giving salam alaikum all over, every time, all over the place. Hey, salam alaikum, yeah. So, and so forth and so on. Brother, sister, that's a blessing. That's a blessing. But I do have my problems with the embassy. Everybody knows that. That is common knowledge, and so forth and so on. And their agents who are portraying themselves as Muslims when in fact they're not, or who come after me. But that's a small segment, a small little segment in what of that life. But the general life, brothers and sisters, there's no comparison between here and when I live in LA. No comparison at all. Those who experience it here wouldn't want to go back to LA to live again. I'll leave you with that. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.